I'm Barry Farber, and this is Diamond Minds, Performance Under Pressure. And when you think of a diamond has four sides. We're going to talk about mind, body, food, and fitness to give us the elements that help us perform under pressure. And we have somebody who performed under pressure. His name is Jordan Toma, a financial advisor, a real estate investor, a motivational speaker, but he had some problems in the beginning with learning disabilities, and he's going to share that with us now. Jordan, thanks for coming on the program. Appreciate it.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Nobody's got more energy than you. Now, what I'd like to start out with first of all, you're all over the country. You see thousands and thousands of these high school kids who are just going nuts for you. You're throwing socks and shirts to them. And I mean, I've never seen anybody with more energy. You know, I feel like you're me like 50 years ago, maybe not that much, but let's go back before all this success and millions of followers and people who have anxiety, these kids in high school and that are going through some serious difficulties that you are inspiring and changing in such a positive way. Take us back to what it was like when you were a kid in school.
So when I was a kid in school, everything was hard. Reading was hard. Sitting still was hard. Just trying to learn was hard. And I thought my whole life was going to be like that. And that took a big toll on my self-confidence and my self-worth. Then I wanted to be taller. I wanted to be smart. I wanted everything. And I got so used to comparing myself to everyone else. And throughout that process, I was also very frustrated. I was angry at the one person that was fighting for me, which was my mom, because my mom was the only one who was pushing me towards these things where I wasn't being successful, but she knew I could be. I took a lot of my frustration out of my mom. I chose to get in trouble instead of do the right thing. I failed out of my first high school. So everything kind of was just failure. But the hardest thing about it was, and this is all over the country, it was how I saw myself for me. Like I thought that I wasn't good enough. And all I did was compare myself to everyone else. And that was my biggest battle, just me not being good enough. And it led to no self-confidence, no belief in myself, no work ethic, me just quitting and being this angry, middle school, high school student that was just running away from home and school. And that was my life for the first 18, 19 years of my life. That's what I did. I ran away from everything that was hard.
So you explained something where I go back into school and my parents took me to a place because I would look out the window. I wouldn't pay attention. My grades weren't great. I really was bored. I don't know what it was. And there were no labels then. There was nothing, it was just like, okay, he's either slow or is not smart or there's something wrong with him. So I always thought something was wrong with me also. And what was it that changed your perspective on life? When was that moment? Because I want to get into a lot of the things you really are passionate about the ability to take performance under pressure and utilize that as a stepping stone for really moving forward. What was that moment that changed your life where you moved forward in a positive direction?
So the moment in my life was, I had a 1.7 GPA in high school. I applied to colleges all over the East Coast. No colleges would accept me. I really didn't want to go to college. I thought I would fail out, so that didn't matter. But my mom wanted me to go. And I remember it was a couple days left of high school. I filled out my last application to Centenary College, and my mom drove to that college and begged them to accept me. And she begged them and annoyed them so much that they actually gave me a chance. And I got into Centenary College literally 2 days before graduation. And I got accepted under one condition. I have to go to summer school. And I have to go to this program at the college to prove to the college that I'm actually capable of doing the work and doing it. So I didn't want to go, but my mom locked me in the car. She put the child lock on and drove me up to Hackettstown. And when I went to that college, I remember I tried to escape. I tried to jump out of the car because I used to jump out of my mom's car all the time. So I tried to do it and she locked me back there. But the moment that changed my life was my back was against the wall. My mom threw me into this realm where I always failed at, but she threw me in there. She left me there. I had nowhere else to go. And in that moment of me, I remember I went to the bathroom and I was crying because I was having an anxiety attack. And I didn't want to be there because every time I got here, I failed. Every time I got to a place in school or hard or I didn't understand something, I just gave up and I failed because I never understood it. And I was looking at myself in the mirror and I remember looking at myself and I remember saying to myself, I hate this feeling and I hate who I am right now. I hate this and I hated myself. But then I said, what if my mom is right? And I remember asking myself, saying, what if my mom is right? And I showed up that first day. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. I did my first assignment ever, like 2 days later on my own. Now I'm 18 years old. I never passed an assignment on my own, never got a grade back, never did anything. I literally never passed a class on my own. I handed my assignment in and I was going to class. I was going to a tutor after every single class, which I've never done before. I figured out the way that I learned because I'm dyslexic. So I would rewrite things over and over and over again until I got it. So I would just read it and rewrite, read it and rewrite, read it and rewrite. And I would do that all night long in the library. And I've never worked that hard before or done anything like that. After I handed that assignment in, a few days went by, I got my first grade back ever in my life. I was 18 and I got an A on this assignment. And I remember looking at it and this was the moment I said to myself, I said, you know what? I said, my mom was right. I said, I've been selling myself short for 18 years. I'm like, my mom was right. And that moment right there changed my life, my perspective on myself and my mom. And like I tell the students all over the country, I just tell them, you're one moment away. But that one moment might be 18 years from now, but you're one moment away from changing your life. And it's going to take showing up to do that. But that was the moment where I said, hey, you know what? Now it's time to make up for lost time. And that's where I never looked back.
That's well, your mother really was a huge impact on you. How has she impacted you then until the moment now? What do you share with me your feelings about that?
So my mom, and like a lot of moms and dads all over the country, right? My mom was relentless. My mom never gave up on me. So my mom never let me get too far. Like I would be quitting on myself. I would be getting suspended from school. I would be jumping out of my mom's car, but she just never stopped telling me how much she believed in me, how much she loved me, and how much she knew I was going to figure it out. And I would have quit on myself, but my mom not quitting on me just forced me to stay in the game, and that's what people need. Sometimes you need someone to keep you in the game because they know you can rise to the occasion. And I was trying to leave the game, but my mom just kept pulling me in, and I was waiting for her to give up on me, but she never did. And she knew if I just stayed in the game long enough and kept going, I was going to figure out, my strengths and who I am. And all this was going to make sense. And she was right. And that's why your mom always knows, she knows. So my mom knew.
It's awesome. And you know what? I see you in Instagram and all social media speaking to these large groups and these kids are going nuts. But I want you to share something because I remember like the thing that changed me, and there's a lot of similarities between us, is I really didn't have great grades. And I went to a 2-year school and people would make fun. Oh, it's Harvard on the highway, this and that, but I'll tell you what, I learned more at a 2-year school than I did at a major 4-year school by far, because there was a teacher that really cared about the students. And it was a course called Learning Techniques. And we're taught algebra and English, all this information, but nobody teaches us how to learn. So that changed my life. And now you're in front of these kids who, a lot of them have anxieties or not sure about themselves. And with the social media and their phones and so many distractions, you go out and you ask somebody to stand up in the audience who feels they have anxiety. Can you explain how that works and what feedback you've been getting from these kids? Because that blew me away of how you engage the audience and those individuals on a very touchy subject.
Yeah. So there's 700 kids in a gym, right? And what I remember being in school was I didn't want anyone to know that I struggled. And I thought I was the only one. So I made a promise to myself. I said, when I do these engagements, when I speak at these schools, number one, we're going to have fun, right? Because kids will not connect with you unless you're having fun. You got to connect with them in a way. So we're going to have fun. We're going to have music. I'm going to throw gifts out. But number two, I'm going to ask a lot of questions, right? But I'm going to ask hard questions. But I'm going to ask them the questions, and I'm going to answer those questions too in the same way. So I asked 3 questions. The first 3 questions I always ask, I say, how many of you here struggle in school? Raise your hand. And all their hands go up, a lot of hands. Then I ask them, how many of you here struggle outside of school, right? And then hands go up everywhere. Then I ask a very important one, and I tell them how important it is. I say, how many of you here struggle with something you never told anyone about? And you'll see almost all their hands go up, right? And it's hard to do that. It's hard to raise your hand in front of all your classmates, especially being young, because you're worried about everything. And their hands go up, right? And I do it for 2 reasons. 1, for the students to look around to show they're not alone. And 2, because I want the teachers to see too. Like, I never knew that about that student. I never knew that one was struggling. And then I share my stories of my life. And then I say, and I share my anxiety story, right? A lot of my anxiety, I have anxiety. And then I ask everyone in the crowd, I say, how many of you here have anxiety? And their hands go up. But I say, keep your hands up. How many of you here feel like it's never, ever, ever going to get better? And hands stay up. But I look for the one that looks like their hands up, but they're also hiding and they're kind of nervous. And I say, keep your hands higher. Who feels like it's never going to go away? And I just look, and then I pick this one person that I feel like that really needs me. And I pull them out of the crowd. I make them stand up with me in front of 700 kids because I want to show them like, yeah, it's scary to get up in front of everyone, but you're going to get up. You're going to talk me and you. And then I make a trade with them. And I say, listen, anxiety, it's at its weakest moment as soon as it hits you, right? But look, you just stood up. And I'm going to give you my necklace. And I give them this necklace that I wear. It's an anxiety necklace. And I make a trade with them. And I say, now I'm going to make a trade with you. I'm going to give you this necklace, but you're going to give me your anxiety. And I use it as a moment for them to remember forever that I chose them. And I also shake their hand. I take their hand and I pull their arm and I take the anxiety and I give them this necklace. And at that moment, like, I want them to feel special, but also I want them to feel, hey, he chose me. I got this necklace. Now, when anxiety kicks in, I'm going to breathe through this necklace. And if I can overcome it once, I can overcome it forever. And I do that all over the country. And these kids they'll send me messages how that one moment like changed their whole life. And I needed that when I was in 6th grade, when I was in high school. I didn't have that. So I make sure I do that everywhere. And it's really a cool experience. And Barry, every time I do it, literally I've done 120 schools. Every time a teacher will come up to me and go, was that staged? And I'm like, no. They're like, how did you know? You couldn't have picked a better student out of 700 kids if you tried. And I said, I could just see it in their eyes. And I'm literally batting 1,000 on that every time. It's unbelievable. And it's awesome. And it changed their whole life.
You're like Oz Perlman, the mentalist almost. I mean, you can actually, the way that you connect with this audience and to take the risk of doing that is, I believe that there's safety and risk and safety. When we try to play it safe, we don't really find out who we are. And I sat down with you and so the viewers know this is a guy who lives and breathes what he does. This guy has more energy than I've never seen anybody with more energy. Seriously. I mean, you are focused and excited and getting people to change the way they think about school, learning, and trying something and trying to come out of their shell. And what were some of the feedback that you received from these kids? Can you share that with me about some of the changes in their life, or they keep in touch with you?
Oh yeah. Like just the other day, I got a message. Hey, like one of them I got when I was done speaking, I was at a big school out in the middle of North Dakota. Kid came up to me and said, hey, I was going to end my life today, but now I'm not. And those are important ones because that's important to me. I don't want anyone thinking like that or doing that. So if I could save someone's life, that's number one. And then other things that I'll get hundreds of messages when I leave or as they come up to me and just say, hey, I never looked at myself that way. I thought my struggles were the reason why I wasn't going to make it. But now I know I'm going to make it. And I tell them this, Barry, and I think everyone in the world can understand this, right? Because I understand this too. I tell them, your life prepares you for your life. And someone next to you might have something you don't have. Your students next to you might have something that you don't have, but you also have something that they don't have. So your life is preparing you for your life. So what you have is your path to success, no one else's. So I want the kids to be empowered by that. Like, hey, I got something too, right? Just because this student has something I don't have, I got something too. Because I'll ask a question. I'll say, how many of you here struggle, right, with something? And how many, if I said to you today, if you can change who you are, if you could not be you anymore and be somebody else because of the things that you're dealing with, how many of you would do that? And you'll see like hundreds of hands go up that they would literally not want to be themselves, be someone brand new. And I tell them how what's going to happen in their life is because of their struggles and what they're overcoming, opportunities will present themselves to them because of who they are, not any other reason other than that, because of who they are and what they overcame. And that's the reason why you make it. And when they hear that and they feel empowered by that, they're like, you changed the way I view myself. One kid was 6'6", big kid in middle school, and he hated that, right? But then he said, you made me feel better about myself. You made me feel like I'm on the right track, that I do have something to offer. So like everyone's got something else they're dealing with. But I know this message will resonate with everyone. So it's I just get hundreds of messages like basically saying, you changed my life. You made me see myself for who I am. It's going to be okay. I'm worth more than what's on the paper. So many different things. And that's what this is all about.
Yep. Our rewards in life are in direct proportion to our service. What we do for others comes back to us. And I want to share with the audience something unique is that they don't understand that you didn't just go to these schools, start speaking, become a success. How much rejection? Like I get rejected, setbacks all the time. If I'm not getting rejection, then I'm not working hard enough. I'm not taking chances. I'm not thinking out of the box. But you went to
Right.
say, hey, look, I got a message for these kids. Let me call these schools. Tell us about the process of the phone calls and the rejection and people saying, what are you talking about coming and speaking to our kids about this and throwing things in our audience? Talk
Right.
about that initial
Right.
phase of rejection.
Yeah. So, rejection is like part of life, right? But if you can bounce back right after rejection, right, that's how you win. And you can't let rejection kind of stop you from your next move. So the first thing I did, Barry, was I bought a list of every single school in the country and their address updated. And then I went on Vistaprint and I created a postcard. And on that postcard, I put principals, teachers, PTOs, parents, and I put a little message about what I speak about. And I mailed it out. It cost me $4,200 and I mailed it out. And when I mailed it out through Vistaprint, postcard and everything with the stamp on it, I waited for calls. And I received no emails. I received one email a month later, and it said, you spelt the word principal wrong. I spelt it like principal instead of principal, right? I forgot to put in, a bad speller. Yeah. And she writes, how are you going to speak at schools? You spelled principal wrong, right? And that's the only response I got back, right? So, but I said, you know what? I said, I did mess that up. There's nothing I could do about it. I didn't respond to her. I just read it. I didn't respond to her. But I said, now I'm going to call every single school, right? So I called every school on that list. Everyone told me no. I stayed up all night long resending messages. Everyone told me no. One school wrote back to me in California and said, hey, listen, all we have is $500. You could come speak to the high school. I said, let's do it. I booked my flight. My flight was $650. So I was already losing money. It didn't make any sense. I hopped on the flight. I had no gifts. I'd never spoken in front of a crowd ever in my life. But I knew I had a message. But I knew, and this is for all the viewers, right? You're never going to be ready, ever. That's why you're always ready. And the way that you really do learn, especially something like speaking or public speaking, you have to go do it. You can't watch videos. You can't go to a class. You got to get up there and you got to mess up and you got to fail and you got to do whatever you got to do. So I said, that's what I got to do. So I got in there. I was nervous. 700 kids filled up the gym. And high school kids are the toughest crowd ever to speak to. And I just grabbed the mic and I just did it. I said, here we go. And I did it. When I was done, I felt like I did such a bad job. I was sitting on the runway in California heading home. And I got an email from a girl that was in the group. And she said, now I'm not going to give up because of you. That's all I got was one email. And I said, I got to do this. And that was 2016. And from that point on, no school still would book me because no one knew who I was. But I just kept making videos and videos. No one watched my videos. And I kept emailing and emailing. And then maybe I got one more at like this little cafeteria. 5 people were there. But I just kept going and going. And then 2021, I was making videos since 2016. 2021, one of my videos got 40 million views. And that's when I started to get noticed. But
40 million.
So no one gets
million.
40 million views. But just so your viewers understand this, right? It wasn't about that one video, and this is anything in life. It was about 7 years of calling and practicing in front of my mirror and recording videos and 7 years of not giving up and all the grit that led me to like this moment, because I could have quit, but I wasn't going to quit. There wasn't an option. And that's how I got to this point.
This is why I have you on Diamond Minds. You were a diamond mind at a very young age. You're a young man. Now, let me tell you something what's interesting about what you just said. There is strength through struggle that you are sharing, and that is the key thing. You're going to talk about that in a moment, but strength through struggle. But the 2 keys, the 2 words for success ultimately in what you're doing came through in what you just talked about, and that is show up. You showed up, and it cost you money, and you thought you failed, and what happened? That's where the diamond dust is. That's where the diamond in the rough becomes a diamond because you struggled through it and learned from it and moved on. And now you have millions of followers. You have people that you're changing their lives, kids at a young age. That must make you feel amazing. How do you feel now after? Tell us where you are now.
I mean, it was all work. Like just last night, I got 27 requests from schools, 27 in one night. I used to I used nobody would book me. And then when I would call principals, they would hang up on me. So like it's unbelievable. But you know what? The whole process of it, right, is what changed me. Like getting this 27 schools reaching out is whatever, but it was like who I became to get to this point is the reason why I'm here, and that's when I wrote my book. The same reason why I wrote my book is because I knew nobody was going to believe in my book. I knew publishers weren't going to know me, but I believed in myself because I'm like, hey, look, I have the proof. And sometimes you have to prove it to yourself. Like you got to prove it to yourself. You got to believe in what you're doing. Even if you're not doing it yet, you got to believe in what you're doing because you will become it soon enough. You will, but you got to believe it. And now, I get requests every day. The Today Show called me. I was on the Today Show. CBS News just did a story on me. Fox News Philadelphia did it. I got interviewed by Geraldo Herrera the other day. And they're reaching out to me. But 7 years ago, nobody reached out to me. Nobody. I had 6 views on my videos for 5 years straight. But
Crazy.
But you can't let that stop you. And what I tell the kids, and I tell everyone, even adults, I tell them, when you're about to do something, right, don't look at the situation and go, oh, what if it doesn't work out? I look at every situation and I say, all right, I'm going to go and give it 100%. I'm going to be all in. I'm going to bet on myself. Let's see who I become. If you focus on who you become, then the outcome is not making it happen. The outcome is who you become. And that's the real gift. And then whatever you want to do next, you'll go and do because it's who you become.
Yep. And your book here, I'm Just a Kid with an IEP. This you self-published, correct?
Self-published. It took that picture on my phone on the cover. That's my high school bus.
That's awesome. Look, I want to share something with you. So I'm listening to you, and I want you to share with the people about, especially young kids, about performance under pressure. And here you are with all this massive rejection, and you're reliving it, not only when you were in high school, but now you're trying to get and speak into these schools and get into these schools, and you're getting massive rejection and hundreds of no response. And people sometimes they're doing something and they're on the 1 yard line. They don't know it. They stop because they feel like the whole world's against them and they're never going to do it. And they just need that one extra push. What do you say to these kids who keep trying and it's really hard? There's some kids that just keep trying and maybe it isn't right for them. Maybe they need to find a different path. What is the answer to people that come up to you and say, look, I've been trying and trying for years, but I'm hitting this obstacle, that obstacle, and you're great. You have enthusiasm. You push yourself. You might have more, courage than me. But what is an answer for these kids who sometimes are stuck in the middle there?
What I tell them is this. I say, listen, when you don't want things to work out right away, you want to be here. This is why you want to be at a place where everyone's rejecting you, everyone's doubting you, no one believes in what you're saying. You want to be there because when you go to this place, and I've been here many times. I was there with my book. I was there with my speaking. I was there in school. I was there when I was an early advisor. I lived there. I like to live there because when your back's against the wall, nothing's working out, you have 2 options, right? You either throw in the towel and then you know the outcome, or you go like this. All right, my back's against the wall. This is the mother of creativity right now. When you're under pressure, right? Back's against the wall, last bit of hope. That's the mother of creativity. That is where the magic happens, right? The magic doesn't happen when things are working out, but when nothing's working out, that's where you got to get real creative and say, I got to make this work. And that's where your best ideas will come through. That's where you will overcome everything and you'll use that moment in your life forever. So I tell them, this is where you want to be. This is the beautiful spot. This is the spot where everyone's going to go, how the heck did you do this? And you might not be able to articulate and say how you did it, but you will show them with your actions, and people will admire that and learn from that and want to do that too in their life. So I just tell them, this is where you want to be. This is the creative spot. This is the magic spot. This is it. Because anything I've ever done in my life was not when things were going good. It was when nothing was working out, but I never gave up. And that little line right there where you're on the verge of calling it a quits, but you say, no way, that's the moment where, you hold on forever. So I say, stay there. Even if it takes a while, you keep going. You stay there. The longer you stay there, the better to take off.
Share with me about pressure and why that's so critical for performance.
So pressure forces you to have like no choice. Like when you have pressure on yourself, you have no choice but to look at the situation and go, I have to make this work. It's either good. Like I always say to myself, it's either going to work or it's going to work. I never give myself a way out. So the pressure, when you put that type of pressure on yourself and you show up, and when everything's on the line and you show up and you get it done, that's like, you're like, wow, like I'm ready for anything. But the real reason why you got it done is because you had that pressure. So you need to put that pressure on yourself. And you can, sometimes some people say, hey, don't put so much pressure on yourself. But you know what? If you don't put the pressure on yourself, who else is going to do it? You have to do that because that's where you're going to do your best work. And then that's where like the real you shines. And then like, even for me, like when I walked into East Hanover Middle School, they were like, hey, CBS News is here. Make sure you do a good job, right? I've already done 120 schools. I already had all the pressure. I was on the Today Show. I've done all the pressure. So eventually your whole life, you get used to that pressure moment. There is no pressure, right? You live in pressure and then you do your best work there. So, live for the pressure, live for the anxiety, live for the fear. All that stuff is a reminder you're on the right track. And just go for it. Be yourself. Don't try to be anyone else. And you will rise to the occasion as long as you stay in the pressure. But you got to stay in the pressure. As soon as you step out of the pressure and feel like, oh, I made it, I got there, then you lose that edge. But if you're always under pressure, you got that edge, and no one can compete with you.
Yep. As soon as you think you're a success, you're going downhill. As soon as
That's
you feel
right.
you can sit back and relax. I had a situation with my son. We're pedaling and we're going down this hill, and I see his face. He got and he's pedaling like crazy. I'm like, and my son's name is Jordan, and I go, Jordan, and he must have been 8 years old or something. I said, Jordan, take it easy, and he goes, but Dad, look at the hill coming up. And I was like, oh my God, that's life. That's like we think we can coast. Coasting is downhill. You have to be focused and embrace pressure like that. I love that about what you talked about. And that is the whole story. You've come really far. You're a successful financial advisor. You've done insurance. You're a real estate investor. It's not just a motivational speaker. You have other things behind that really progressed you forward and pushed you forward. But I want you to define what your definition today, this moment of success is. What is your definition of success now?
My definition of success is going into any environment, whether it's school or corporation, wherever I'm at, and connecting with the audience. I want to connect with them in a way, like I'll feel successful when I'm done and they say, hey, I see myself in your message. I see my son and my daughter in your message. That to me is successful. When I was an advisor or when I was doing real estate, yes, it's great. Everyone, you make money, all that stuff's cool. But one thing I told myself, I said, I'm not going to chase money anymore. When you're an advisor and you're in business, you're always thinking about money. But I said, if I focus on the money, I'll forget about the people. But if I focus on the people, right, I'll focus on the people, and that's all that matters. So now, to me, in my life, I just focus on the people. I focus on the students. I focus on the teachers. And whatever comes after that is whatever. But my main focus is the connection with the people, and that's success to me. And then just being a good dad, good husband, good role model for everyone. I live my life. I do the right thing every single day. I wake up, I go to the gym. I don't do anything that you could put a camera on me all day long and watch me all day long. I'm the same person. So I just want to live by the person I am on screen in schools and then off camera. I'm the same person.
Yep. And I see that meeting you in person also. I want to share one line here before we wrap this up. I want to say something to you and I want you to comment on it. So through martial arts and through reading a lot about nature and Tao and different things, I found out this saying. It said, those who desire nothing possess everything. And when I first read that, I was like, what? You have to have goals. You have to have something you're shooting for. You can't desire nothing. But the funny thing is what you just said is you focused on the people and not on the money. And the money came or the success came. But talk about that, about having, it's not easy, by the way. I'm still struggling with that. Those who desire nothing possess everything because you then operate on total what I call mushin, no mind. The way you operate is who you are, and everything is very relaxed, and things start coming to you. It's a very interesting comment and quote I wanted you to comment on.
Yeah, no, I like that because you're right. It's hard to do that because, the world that we live in, unfortunately, it's a monetary world, right? We need money to survive. We need money for our kids. We need money for everything. So it's hard to not focus on the money because you need a balance. We all need to make money, right? But you have to somehow in your brain, like what you said, is you got to let all that go. And when you let that go, you do your best work. You focus on what you're really doing and what you're really trying to do. Like, I don't just go into a school and then say, hey, I'm getting paid for this. When I go to a school, I'm looking at 700 kids and I know there's kids in those stands, right, that might be feeling maybe suicidal, full of anxiety, feel like they're never going to make it. I just focus on that. And when I tell you my life from 2019 to now, like I wake up, like I am exactly who I am. I'm who I'm supposed to be. When I wasn't living this life, when I was working and being an advisor and doing everything else, I felt like I wasn't me. But then I became more of who I am and like as a person on the inside. Now it's on the outside and it's every day. So I feel just like you said, I'm really a free person. I'm just free. I am just me. And it's because I let that all go and focus on the people. And that changed. And just for an example, Barry, when I'm done speaking at a school, right, they're always like, here, Jordan, here's the balance of your check, right? And I'm like, okay. And I shove it in my book bag, right? It gets all bent and whatever. Sometimes I even forget to cash it because I'm so connected with these kids. And at the end, kids will swarm me and I'll hear things like, hey, I was going to commit suicide. Now I'm not. Hey, I was going to never come back to school again. And I don't have anyone that loves me, but thank you. You showed me there's other people in my life. All those messages, right? They fill that feeling that I'm trying to find. The money cannot fill that. So like, yes, I need that money because I have to work, right? We have to get paid, but it doesn't even cross my mind. It's just a piece of paper, right? You keep going. But those messages from those kids, that's what fills everything for me. And that gives me the energy and the fuel. I wouldn't be able to do this if I was just searching for money. I need a lot of energy for this. And it's the people.
So here you are, and kids are coming towards you with all kinds of excitement, enthusiasm, and there's kids saying that you saved their life. How many other kids you don't even know about that you have such an impact that it comes back in spades? And I have to say that nobody realizes the hard work you put in. I watch your Instagram. You have thousands of these things. You're running around, getting a workout, preparation, the whole thing. And Edison said opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. That's your secret. That's a key secret. I don't think people understand that. They think there's some magic secret to it, but hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I want to congratulate you on what you've accomplished and the millions of lives you're impacting every single day, Jordan. I really appreciate you coming on the program.
Oh, you got it. Thank you. And I know you're a father too, and I'm a father too. I know. And when I share these stories, right, because we think about our own kids and just kids in general, and like these kids that I see are so innocent, right? They remind me of my son. My son's 4, but I look at my son and I look at the world because the world's a tough place, and I know it's hard. And when I go into these schools, like it's important for me to I worked hard, I got here, but like I want to be the reason why they work hard and they get there too, because they deserve to get to that moment, right? So if I could be that reason to say, hey, you're going to get to that moment, it's coming, right? And they give it one more day, they'll be an inspiration to maybe somebody else, right? And we can do that by just believing in each other and showing up for each other. But what people, your viewers might need to remember is, even if you feel like nobody's watching, somebody's always watching, and just because you didn't give up is the reason why someone else didn't give up. So you got to keep going. Somebody's looking up to you, someone's watching you, and someone's not going to quit because of you. So it doesn't go unnoticed, And like when that hard work is missed, don't let these moments get missed too. That hey, you're doing it for somebody else too, not just yourself.
Yep. Jordan Toma, you are a diamond mind, and you perform under pressure extremely well. Yep, I'm a big fan. Thank you for coming on and contributing to this. You've been an inspiration. All the best. Continued success. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you. You guys. Thank you for having me, Barry. You too.
Now, that was inspirational from Jordan Toma because it really takes a look at somebody who had some serious learning disabilities, went through some serious rejection. And what are the takeaways from Jordan? Number one, never, ever give up. keep going. Remember that when you do push yourself forward, you find out something inside you that really shines. And that's what you learn when you go under pressure. And the key thing, number two, is to know that there's people around you. Like his mother really believed in him so much. And he didn't know that till later on, but there's people around you that really you can look for. Mentors, wise advisors, people that can support you in tough times. And the third key thing is don't think about the money. Sure, I've interviewed thousands of people who all talk about there was one person out of all those thousand that said money was a definition of success, and he said it was FU money. That I can look at people and say, that's what his definition of success. But nobody else said that. It was giving back. It was a passion for life. It was doing things so you saw other people's success. Because you elevated their success, you elevate your own. That's the key point he made, is think about what you have inside you, your service to others, elevate those others in some way with your talent, and it comes back to you tenfold. I'm Barry Farber, and this is Diamond Minds, Performance Under Pressure. May your future be as bright as a diamond.